The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
To Triversity Talk. I'm Wendy Stewart, and the countdown for Pride, my gosh, is happening this Sunday. And if you're in New York City, please come and support the Pride March. I have to tell you something I want to share tonight. All of a sudden, everyone is calling it the Pride Parade. I was a marshal for a number of groups over the years, being in the march myself. And we always had this training that we had to take. And the one thing they told us was it's not a parade till everybody has equal rights. So somewhere along the way, like in the last year, I hear parade, and not march. But if you think of the politics of Pride, and certainly now more than ever with what's going on and the political arenas that are out there, I guess it, yes, indeed, is a march. I mean, you know what? Parade or march or whatever you want, please. If you're in New York City, come and support everyone who's marching. You will find me with the Imperial Court of New York. And we are kicking off the march this year, which is like too much pressure. We're all going to, of course, if you know the Imperial Court of New York, we're dressed in rhinestones, and our theme this year, of course, our color will be all white with lots of rhinestones kicking off this march. And it's like, TV cameras and all that stuff. Tonight, if you are tuning in, you are in the tri-state area. We call this show Triversity Talk because it was named after the Triversity Pride Center located in Milford, Pennsylvania, that has a lot of really great events coming up. We have an actual prom that is going to be produced in partnership with the Forestburg Playhouse. And I think that date is maybe the 13th, but don't listen to me. Go on Facebook, go to Triversity, the Pride Center, and you will see our list of events. The 27th is Paddle for Pride. We will get a percentage of people that sign up and mention Triversity with Kitt. They have rafting. They also have kayaks, but I believe it's whatever you want to do. And this event for me, I don't kayak, okay? I don't swim that well. And whatever I do in the Delaware River, I always wear a life jacket because you know what? The Delaware doesn't look so fierce, but it's fierce. So I take it very seriously. Paddle for Pride, that will be on July 27th. And again, always go to Triversity's Facebook page where you can find out about all of our up and coming events. Okay, my God, I am just a series of announcements tonight. So the person I have coming on tonight, I had seen a play that they did a reading for. And my co-host, Tim Moss, that I do If These Walls Could Talk, was one of the people reading in it. And Tim kept telling me, he told me for weeks before, you have to come to this reading. You have to come to this reading. The person who wrote it, it's just the insight, the impact that it will have on you. And I was like, of course, I will support Tim in whatever Tim does. And I go to the reading and I was completely impressed with the person who wrote this play. The play is called Salvation. And our guest tonight has a BA in theater arts, a master's in theater education, and then a CMA in Laban movement, and is an educator. But I had to ask myself, what is the road that one takes to go from being an educator in the classroom to actually writing a full-length play and getting the first steps, of course, getting it produced as a reading. Please put your hands together for Kitt Blessing.
Hey, Wendy, how are you?
I am really well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on tonight. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad we connected at Theater for the New City because, you know, then you were all fresh in my mind. You were there like seeing all the plays that they did for the festival, right?
Yeah, Tim was performing and, so I wanted to support him. And then I got to meet you and everybody. And that was really a cool experience.
Well, and that's why, we tell all of our theater friends, we really are a family, right? It's a chosen family.
Absolutely.
We really are a family. And I mean, what could be better than going to support your friends and, get to see their work and just meet so many interesting people. It gave us a chance to really talk. The night that you did the reading, I couldn't even stay. I felt terrible. Icavelli and I couldn't even get to the end because we had a gig over at the Copa. Performers, we have way too much on our plates. That's just how it goes. So I have to call out your background. And I have to share it with my audience. I went on Facebook, 5 minutes before the show was starting, and I see Kitt has already put a post up about the background, which is, I need my glasses for this. It's Jurassic Park,
It's
right?
Jurassic Park, yeah.
That is like hilarious. And the dinosaurs are on their side, actually.
Yeah, because I didn't pay attention to when I put it up.
Oh, even better.
Just go up there. Yeah, exactly.
Like when that asteroid hit, it couldn't have been
That's it.
They were probably all knocked over. But now I love your background. How did this background come to be for you?
So when we started virtual learning, I had a student show scheduled for March 17th, and the district closed on March 17th. They told us to go home. The show was canceled. So there was a lot of confusion. When are we going back? What is happening? None of us knew. So I was building a virtual learning studio in my basement because I didn't have anywhere. Where am I going to teach? I need somewhere quiet, and I needed a backdrop because I had a bunch of old props and stuff like behind where my desk was. So I'm like, what would be really cool? And I'm like, let me get a sheet. And then I'm like, let's do Jurassic Park because the kids are at least going to be like, Miss Blessing, why do you have dinosaurs behind you?
No,
I teach middle school.
That was my first question. I'm not a kid. And I just loved it. I have to tell you, I loved it immediately. I too have a sheet behind me. Okay,
I like it.
Let's just say, and this is my third year doing this show with this sheet behind me. So let's just shout out everywhere to every person that does podcasting that has, because of the pandemic, whose world got rocked, and all of a sudden we all had to be so clever. You are impressive because I can't imagine like your day job, right, is teaching, and then all of a sudden, basically, they say, Kitt, don't come to work anymore.
Yeah, that was wild. And I teach theater, so trying to figure out how to teach theater in a virtual setting was really difficult. But I have two really supportive principals, and they kind of let me do what I needed to do, and we made it work. Was it amazing? Absolutely not. But we got through the year and a half. And I still have enrollment in my classes, so I must have done something right.
But that's really incredible. And now, of course, I'm going to have to pick your brain and ask you,
sure.
How do you teach theater to the middle schoolers, right? You do middle schoolers.
Yeah.
How do you teach middle schoolers online theater?
It was really hard, especially because I've never used Google Meet, and we're a Google school, and it was a lot of collaboration. But ultimately, I did like improv games in like the large Google Meet. So I would do like games such as Convince Me, where they would have to convince me to do something and use their acting. Because we were mid-year, so they had already had some training in improv and playwriting. Right. And playwriting is such a large part of my curriculum that I was able to translate that. And then we did a virtual show. So I recorded the kids doing their own original work and their own monologues. And then my one principal put that on our website, and it was great. So the kids still had a final performance. So that was really cool.
I love your story of adaptation. But somebody like me, I'm not tech savvy. Like even for the shows that I do, I always have a producer because I learned the hard way. Even though they tell you StreamYard is so easy, no, it is not. There's nothing easy. How did you have the skills to put this together?
Google, literally, and the high school theater teacher and I are very good friends. And me and him would just be sitting there and talking on Google Meet or on the phone, trying to figure out what are we going to do, because my kids go to him next, right? So my 8th graders were going to my friend Todd next. So we were trying to collaborate and see what we can do. But honestly, it was Googling a lot of stuff, and Google was not where it quote unquote needed to be, because we got breakout rooms really late compared to when Zoom got them. So I did a lot of whole group work. We did a lot of whole group writing, sharing Google Docs that you can share back and forth was a godsend.
The doc part I get. You're talking to me like I'm someone that even comprehends this. I only learned about the breakout rooms because, first of all, the whole Google Meet thing, I used it with 1 or 2 clients. I had so lost in the sauce. These are people that use it every day, not me. Then the thing with the breakout rooms, I don't remember how I ended up in the breakout room, Kitt. I don't know if I hit anything or if somebody else hit something, but I ended up in a breakout room. But still, even now, it's really hard for me to it's hard to explain to you, put my brain into that I'm sorry, the virtual reality.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, now when there's a Google Meet, I have to be like, oh man, how did I do this again?
Oh God, you made me feel so much better. Thank you so much.
No, it's whoa, wait, we're going to, yeah, I gotta click that. So I get it. It was in and out of my head.
But I got to tell you, 1.5 years, and you taught every day. You would go down to your basement. And it's the amazing resourcefulness that people use to get through the pandemic.
Oh yeah, I give everybody, especially in education, props, because we were all sinking and we didn't know what to do. And then the one thing I really appreciate about the pandemic was the camaraderie that was built in at least in our district. Right. In TNEC, we really banded together, and we were shooting text messages and group chatting and really being there for each other and supporting each other, and the administration as well. So I got really lucky in that regard.
Well, you had mentioned that a couple of times, and I think, when you're teaching, that's really important that you had the support of the administration. And your kids all got through fine, right?
Yes, we did. We made it.
Great. Wow. It's just amazing. I keep looking at those dinosaurs and thinking that's me with technology. That is exactly how I feel. So now that you're back in the classroom, you're actually ending the school term, right?
Oh, I'm done. Yes, I'm done as of June 14th. So I've been chilling.
So you're chilling. Do you have some projects that you're working on right now?
Yes, I am. So I'm a really big Sherlock Holmes fan, and I've been working on a Sherlock Holmes novel. I just finished it, so now I'm on the novella, the editing process. So that's one of the things I'm working on, and I'm writing
a book, though. I don't want to gloss over this. I knew you were a playwright, but now on your time off, you're writing a book.
Book, poetry. I've just been a writer. From when I was little, I just took to writing and telling stories. So I kind of dabble in everything.
You know what I've noticed about people that tell me that? It has started when they're little, and yes, they're arts people, and they do end up dabbling in everything. But playwriting to me is just a particular, it's just a particular skill that I personally have never been able to wrap my head around. I've never taken a playwriting class. I don't understand how you hear the characters in your head to put them out on paper. I can tell you this. You're a teacher. How do people do this?
For me, it comes down to knowing who my characters are. So if we even take Salvation, the lead character's name is Andreas, and I do this, and I make my students do it, and they all complain to me about it for about 2 weeks, and then they're like, "Oh, Mixed Blessing, that's so much easier." So I will write a whole character bio. I will write, what does my character like? What does my character dislike? What are his core beliefs? what are something that really bothers him. And of course, I obviously simplify that for middle school, but to get into a piece like Salvation, I needed to know who this character was. So I will spend the time this character.
Having a frozen movement here. Don't we love streaming? So I'm here with Kitt Blessing, who's a playwright, who is just frozen before my very eyes. And I'm hoping my technical producer can come on and help unfreeze us. Are you unfrozen yet?
Yeah, I'm okay. Now
you're okay now. Yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Unfrozen. Yes. So you have them really do what you do, which is you develop the entire character on paper.
Yeah, I'm a really big believer in Aristotle, who broke down the elements of theater. So it's plot, playwright, theme, diction, music, and spectacle. And for me, if you write along those lines, you can't go wrong. But for me, because theater is so personal and they're actors that are on stage and they're saying these words, you have to know your characters first.
Right. So for an actor that is taking a part in a play, you would advise that when the playwright doesn't give you that much, right? You would advise that they take and do this entire character breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's easiest. That's how I write. Every actor has a different style. So that's kind of the fun of theater too, is to see the process. Like in Salvation, my lead, what he did with that character, I never would have expected. I was blown away.
Right.
Because that wasn't what I had in my head. It was better. And that was like the relationship between actor and playwright.
And there you go. I think you really hit on something right there. You had it in your head, right? This was your baby. You gave birth to Salvation.
Yeah.
But when you put actors on a stage and they start to make it their own, and you just said it, they use whatever process that they have to use to make it their own. That the piece itself was very, very, it impacted me in an incredible way. Can you give our listeners just a little bit of what it's about, a synopsis?
Okay, sure. So pretty much Salvation is a play that discusses the LGBTQIA plus experience during the Holocaust. Namely, there were medical experiments done on mostly gay men that aren't really talked about in the big narrative. And coupled with that, I kind of was trying to discuss a bit of the hypocrisy within the Catholic Church. I was born and raised Catholic. And so you kind of have this idea of a character, the main character, really struggling with what is right and what is his truth and what is his right and how do we navigate that.
Right. And throughout the play, I would call them the beats or the moments really were very riveting for the person watching, which
Thank
was
you.
me. First of all, I kept saying in regards to yourself, how did they know about this? Because I knew about this, and my daughter knows a lot about it. She studied the Holocaust.
Oh, okay.
That's what she went to Smith and studied the Holocaust.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Says it all, right?
Yeah.
But most people, we know what happened when Hitler took over, and we know what happened to the Jews. But this part of history was really glossed over. Even to this day, we could it could be cisgender people or LGBTQ people. I guarantee you, and even people that are Jewish, I could guarantee you we could go up to people and ask them if they knew about this, and they would have no idea. Absolutely.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you 100%.
How did you go about researching this?
Oh, man. It was 15 years in the making.
Wow.
Maybe probably a little longer. Because in 7th grade, we had to write a story about what if we were in the Holocaust. And because I'm a writer, I was like, yo, I can do this. I got this.
So wait, I'm not going to let you gloss over any of this. This piece that you wrote is so heavy, and you started in 7th grade. That is a hell of a lot of interest and insight. I'm sure. Come on, I wasn't in your junior high class, but I can only imagine what everyone else was writing about. This is like,
yeah. I went pretty deep.
You went
but
deep.
That's where, yeah. Wow. That's where the character Andreas came from. He was with me since I was 12 years old, and he's obviously grown and changed, and he's not who you see now on the stage, but he was there. And then in college, I was a pretty arrogant writer, and I was like, I'm going to write like an amazing play about the Holocaust. And I had an amazing playwriting professor, Rosemary McLaughlin, who she just really cultivated my love for playwriting, and taught me how to write. But I didn't know what I was going to write. I was just going to make this amazing play. And then I saw in a book, I had seen Martin Sherman's Bent. I had read it. I had found it in Drew's library. And that blew it open because I had never heard of the term pink triangle until Martin Sherman's Bent. So I went for a while being like, I'm going to write like Martin Sherman. I'm not.
Well, no, that's great because you were inspired. I was going to ask you like who inspired you, because your path is quite interesting, but now you just said it, right? And Ben, of course, we all know.
Yeah, and then I was just kind of researching, and I saw in a footnote, it was literally a footnote in this book called, I believe it was like K, which was the German word for concentration camp. And it was about these two men, Dr. Schumann, who is in my play in some capacity, and Dr. Klauberg, and they had a competition who could sterilize more people. And Dr. Schumann took gay men, and Dr. Klauberg took women, and Heinrich Himmler did give the credit and the go ahead to this particular thing. And that's really where salvation started. This footnote in a book. I was like, oh my God.
Footnote in a book about such an unbelievably sick concept that actually happened in history. And here's where history and art, right, overlaps. Yes. You got out there and you wrote the piece, and I saw the reading. I'm praying for the production now because you said something that really needs to be said, and your actors were just terrific. And every moment that they played, I mean, we were in that room over in that rehearsal studio, no set, nothing except the brilliance of your performers and your writing. And I left there and I didn't stop thinking about it. And that's a credit to you. And that's what your work will do. It will rivet people on that level. Did you feel when you were writing this, and it was over a long period of time, anger or upset or?
I think the biggest thing for me was doing justice to the victims. Granted, this is a fictitious play, right? Like Andreas does not exist. These people do not exist.
Happened, so you had to create the characters to tell the story.
Correct. And my biggest thing was, real people died due to these events. So it was, I feel like as a playwright, for me, especially in historical fiction, real priests died trying to save the Jewish people, right? Real gay men died under these conditions. And for me, it was, I kept that as the truth, right? So whenever I did take some historical liberties with dates and things like that. But to me, the guiding point was, this is, yes, my story, but it is not my story. It's the story of the people who have suffered, and I have to do it right by them.
Right. But it's interesting. You became the vehicle to tell the story. And I keep going back to that because I have a friend that he's a caver, and he found a red shoe in a cave in Croatia, and he couldn't let it go. It's not so different than you not being able to let go what you started in 7th grade. Couldn't let it go. And then started talking to people and found out there were Jewish families that lived, 3 Jewish families that lived in the cave. All right. And long story short, was able to trace, he was back in Croatia again and again and again, and his life was threatened. It was called No Place on Earth. Cyprus. And every time he'd go back, a caver. He's not Jewish. He is from Cyprus. You know, I'm like, Chris, why? He said, there was a story. I had to tell it because people suffered and I couldn't stop thinking about it. He brought such closure. Those families that got out went on to their families are now in Canada.
That's amazing.
Amazing story. He became personal friends with them. He went and there's a Jewish prayer called Kaddish for the dead. He went and said Kaddish with the families. And I found that it was so moving in the same way your piece was moving. It's like being a pit bull. You connected to the suffering and you wouldn't let it go. And you had to tell the story.
And I mean, there was also a big part of me, which is why I think that I had involved the stories of Catholic priests that I read about, because I am not Jewish, you know, that's not my heritage. And for me, there was a part of me saying, do I have a right to tell this story? This is not my heritage. Do I have a right to? And I really had to wrestle with myself for a while. And then ultimately I'm like, well, you know, I am part of the pink triangles and I can tell that story.
Right.
And then, you know, the other things came up, but it was hard at first to be like, yes, this is a great story, but is it my story to tell?
But I think it's like making films, right? I've worked in Africa.
Okay.
I'm not, how am I going to put this? It's their story. It's never my story. Right. All I can do is take what they give me and with translators and shooting and put it up on a film. You understand?
Right.
Yes,
absolutely.
Because I think we all owe something. My friend Chris felt like he owed something for whatever reason. You felt like you owed something. And there are people that would say, well, you know, you're not Jewish, right? Well, how can you tell this story? And my answer to that is because I can. It's like, I'm not African. How can I tell this story? Because you know what? Nobody else told it.
Exactly. And that's ultimately how I felt. I'm like, no one has told these stories of these dead gay men.
Right.
So I want to tell it.
Right. And historically, there's so much, you know, I'll bring up now Stonewall, right? Because that's what we're dealing with right now. And we talk about Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera and all of that happened. But at the end of the day, as we all know, it goes back way before that. And you brought out a really ugly aspect of history that happened in the LGBTQ community. And you know what? From your story and to AIDS and to now, I say to people, never forget. Never forget.
That's very true.
Especially going forward, let's just say like the last 8 years ago, 10 years ago, big strides, marriage equality. Didn't it just look like everything was coming up roses and all this stuff where people had been, it was going to be great, right? And then we go into like the last couple of years where, you know, Roe versus Wade, you're seeing the kind of bills that they're attempting to pass.
Oh, yes.
I always talk about what's going on in the trans community on this show. I mean, to me, the most horrific thing you can do to someone is take their hormones away. They can't get their hormones. Like, you're killing people. And yet I never thought I would see the day where this is up for grabs. And I think and one of the things I learned about Pride this year, that they had to struggle with it, NYC Pride and really all over the country, tons of corporate funding was pulled because that they were threatened. Corporations that had backed Pride before were threatened.
Yes.
This year. That's a biggie. Where does that leave all of us? None of us know what the next game is going to be or how it's going to look. And that is extremely nerve-wracking, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I have friends that are part of our Triversity and other groups, and you know, they're talking about their relocation to places like Spain and Portugal. And I hear conversations with people, Kitt, well, where are you going to go? You know? And I guess what's scary to me, you know, I've been living my best life here in New York. You know, to me, it's like we can do anything. We can be anything. We can say anything. I don't know. Is that going to go away?
It's a really scary thought, and I think that's why art is more important now than ever.
Thank
Um,
you.
I think playwrights, actors, dancers, choreographers,
Yeah.
designers, activists, now is the time that you have to stand up because, like I tell my students, art makes change. You
Yeah.
might not think so at age 12, but art makes change. And I think that's why now more than anything, plays, movies, music, dances, visual arts, we need to be present. We need to step up. We need to let people know that this is not okay.
Right. Right. And you know what? Our future, I always feel, are the kids, right? So kudos to you for doing that. Now, in a teaching environment, I don't know what things are like in Teaneck. I can tell you in Milford, Pennsylvania, and I don't go to school there, but we had a lot of issues with the school board last year. This year, I'm not hearing so much, but we had, you know, the ostracizing of
Mhm.
LGBTQ kids.
Um,
They were told everything was okay, and then you talk to the kids, no, it wasn't okay.
no.
That's why this organization, Triversity LGBTQ Center, we're brick and mortar. We're in Milford, and
Oh, cool.
yeah, we service the community, which is really
That's
cool.
awesome.
But we got a lot of pushback. I would watch the meetings, the PA meetings on
Mhm.
YouTube. They were aired on YouTube. I couldn't believe some of the stuff that I heard. 1 hour and 40 minutes from New York. Have you experienced any pushback from parents,
Um,
what you've taught in your classroom?
I have to say, my experience has been amazing. I have one principal, such an advocate. We painted a mural on the back wall of our building. My GSA, Gay Straight Alliance,
Yeah.
my principal was like, "Hey, do this," and it is like covered in rainbows in the back. So when you come in from the back of the building, the first thing you see is a pride mural. Um, and that was just my principal. We wanted to do something, and my principal's like, "Well, I don't like white walls, so mural it." So we
Absolutely.
and what's really cool is, kids say stuff, right? Because they're in middle school and they say stuff. And you will have teachers who will correct them and say, no, you can't say that. And you'll have teachers that will educate them and say no. And we have on our mural quotes from the administration and from teachers about what inclusion is and why it's important. And I will tell you that I cried the day that was done because
Sure.
I grew up, in a town that was not the case. I didn't even know what gay was. Like it wasn't talked about, so I didn't know who I was until very late in life. But to have these kids and to see the pride of them painting, Miss Blessing, this is my flag. And when I came out to both administrations as a trans man, they were like, "Oh, great, cool, this is awesome!" Like my one principal, he was like, "Oh, hey, I'm putting Kitt in my phone," and my other principal, she goes, "All right, mixed blessing," and she sent an email about the mural, and she put my new honorific in, and it was just, I felt very accepted. Um, I think it's rough anywhere, but I think at least at the middle school level, because that is where I teach in TNEC, um, because we have strong administrations and we have inclusive and empowering administrations, that trickles down to the kids.
Right. And you don't get any kind of pressure from the school board, the people that are on the school board.
I can't say I have felt it. I don't know what admin feels.
Right.
I've had, not in TNEC, but of course I've had parents commenting on my sexuality quite a lot. Um, but I feel like I'm well protected by my principals, by both of them, and so I am able to create a safe space for my kids. But I'm sure I don't know.
Actually, for yourself too. It's a safe space for everyone. And you brought up a really great point. You've got the administration behind you, which is, pardon the pun, but it is a blessing. It is. It's like very perfect, right? That you are in a situation like that, and I'm thinking about what you're doing for the kids. You've got kids in middle school. There are kids questioning, and the worst thing that can happen is to have that kid shut down, and you don't know what's going on at home. you know.
No, and one of the main things I've impressed upon my students, especially this year, and I had a friend, well, I had a couple of my theater friends make videos about inclusion, and my one friend, he was really discussing like the importance of coming out into a safe space. And for me, I always tell my kids, I'm like, if you know who you are, don't come out until you're safe. I came out as a trans man at 37 years old, like 2 months ago, because I finally felt safe enough to do it.
To do that,
because I was surrounded by people for the first time really in my life that were like, oh no, be you, like that's cool. So I always tell my kids,
long
like, you
time. That's first of all, you read a lot younger, so you put yourself.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You put yourself at least 10 or 12 years, but it's great because you have such beautiful, fresh energy, Kitt. But you know, what did I learn today? I learned you come from a Catholic background, and the amount of people I've had on this show that come from Catholic backgrounds, it's tough. Coming from it's tougher. Well, there's certain cultural backgrounds people come from that are also really tough, but that is not an easy thing. What do you think like finally let you feel okay?
I think my friend group.
Great.
I'm gonna say my friend group. I had a friend who took my call when I was really, really struggling and was in a really, really dark place. And he just listened and he made me laugh and he talked me off I told him, like, I am going to kill myself. I can't handle this. And he was just so kind enough to just talk me off the ledge and say it's okay.
Right. You had a friend that talked you off the bridge, as we say. And yeah. And that's incredible. But you just emphasized something to anyone who's listening, you know, your friend group, your chosen family.
Absolutely.
If you're in a dark place, you have those people that are around you that you can trust.
Yes, absolutely.
And smart you that you built a friends group like that.
Yeah. It's been a while in the making, but I finally have that little village that I'm like, I love you guys. You're great.
You know what, Kitt? My daughter's 31 and we talk about this all the time. And she's, you know, my husband passed away, her father.
I'm sorry.
March 19th. It was really new, like how we're living our lives now, right? Because we're different. It's like having your arm cut off and now you're getting through your life as an amputee. That's the only thing I can compare it to. But I remember saying to people, I just wish I had a support group. And one of my friends who watches this show, we were at one of the many, I threw like so many celebrations of life, because you know that's what I'm about. I'm the party person. She said to me, look around you. You have a support group. What are you looking for out there? And that's exactly what I say. You were ready and you had the people around you that said, you know what, you can be you now. It's okay. And people should never, ever forget that that is one of the most important things that they can build. And you're right. It takes time. My daughter's 31. Her father's death was extremely isolating for her. She didn't have one friend initially that had lost a parent. You know, at my age, of course, I had so many people that had lost so people around them. So it's important that you find people and that they have your back and that you can trust them. And like for you, it's all forward now. My God, I can't wait to see what's going to happen with your writing and everything.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, it's very, very exciting. And at least I have to say, you're smart enough to have a day job. This thing of playwriting, no, because I'm going to go there. I love going there. I've been an entertainer and done this my entire life. When I got into this industry, you were shamed if you had a part-time job or whatever. Now people have to have full-time jobs. Come on.
Hey, I need health benefits. Like trust me, if I could write like all day, every day, I would be like, yo, I'm going to do this, but I can't.
You know what? Even the people I know that do that, they've got like a side gig. They're, part of 5 people that own a bar and I love telling this out there. Don't make the mistake of letting people tell you, oh, if you're a true artist, you're just going to sit and create art all the time. You need to survive.
Yeah, Trust me, I went in college as a theater major. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna write. Like, I'm gonna leave, graduate, and I'm just gonna write. And that, no,
Right.
that has not.
And then you get the rude awakening of like, oh my God, I have bills and stuff like that to pay. Where did you go to school?
I went to Drew University.
Okay.
It was my only choice. Thankfully, I got in. And I can honestly say they taught me how to be in theater. Like,
how cool is that? Your only choice. And what are the chances of, you spoke about a professor that deeply affected you. What are the chances of being that lucky to have that happen?
No, I got very lucky in the department I went to, and every professor was so supportive and, oh yeah, no, like this is a place you can try it. And I learned to design, I learned to write, I learned to act, I learned to direct, like all of that, because we had to do it all.
Right. Well, yeah, I think it's a skill set that every person that's in the arts really needs to be able to wear a gazillion hats. Tim Moss and I talk about that all the time. Oh yeah, we do this, we do that, or whatever, but it's all within the realm of theater and teaching as well. Look, you're teaching theater. So you know what I'm saying? You're true to brand, as we say. So one of the things I didn't know, and I did Google it, but I want to hear it in your words. One of the things you studied was Laban movement.
Yes. Rudolf Laban, he created a series of movement, and he had to flee Germany because of Adolf Hitler, because he invented these movement choirs that Hitler found threatening, like they were going to rise up. So he fled to England. But short form is he developed a system of movement that would make factory workers their lives easier. They would move better. And really we now use it as a form of dance notation, but it's how to move, how to notate dances, how to observe movement pretty much. So it's great. I mean, it helps me as a choreographer, and it helps me even in my classroom. It helps me with blocking, especially, and it taught me how to use space. So if I'm directing, I understand, like, okay, this is the space. And he also talked about how emotions are tied to movement, which I was very lucky. I got to do a workshop for adults. I love when I get to teach adults. It's rare. Last year for my friend Darius, and I talked about how certain movements that we do bring out certain emotions for us, and that is the effort, the quote unquote effort, and that is the whole, like, in a nutshell, the crux of Laban. So I use that in acting quite a lot.
That I'm taking this all in because as a performer, it's not something if I do a character, I just do the character, internalize it, and whatever movement comes out. But I just auditioned for something in Theater for the New City that I got.
Hey, cool. Oh, sweet.
The character is German, and it is, believe it or not, the same time period you're working about.
Oh, nice.
Conjure that up for me, Kitt. But, I'm working on the German accent, but when I was doing the reading, and he had me read like 6 times a scene. Nice. And he's like, okay, now I want you to do this with your body still, because this character wouldn't be and if you watch me, like, just in life, my hand, everything's moving. Yeah. Now I'm being told I have to be still. Oh my God. I'm like, and the German accent on top of it. And I'm like, how the heck am I going to do this? So the callback is on Saturday. I'll let you know. How it went.
Yeah, let me know how it goes. I always tell my kids, because one of Laban's big principles is active stillness. And I always tell my kids, there is power in being still. Think about, like, why is your character being still? And they usually come up with because they're children, some weird responses, but it works for them. Like, why is your character still?
That's great. Thank you. I'm
no problem.
I have no one coaching me for anything, Kitt. I'm just this free spirit that's been on the earth for decades, doing whatever the heck they wanted.
That's awesome, though.
It is awesome, but no, you know what? I've learned something from you, and I'm going to take this tonight.
Appreciate that.
Lines. And what is it about the character?
And like, what are those moments where stillness emphasizes? Because I've always been taught, like, there's more said in the silence and stillness than there is in active movement.
Well, in our really great actors, that is the ones that you absolutely can't take your eyes off of.
No.
And they have you in Marlon Brando was really known for that, and they have you and you're listening and you're waiting for the next word. And you're right, the power is in the stillness. So I wanted to ask you I know you've done a number of plays, but you don't know how it feels. I wanted to talk about that a little bit while we're on the countdown now, our last 5 minutes.
No, so You Don't Know How It Feels was taking the mood down just a little bit. You Don't Know How It Feels was an autobiographical play about when I was raped by a gym teacher as a child. 11. So I aged up my characters because I didn't feel comfortable with that. But it is the autobiographical, and it is the combination of him and someone who tried to turn me straight years later that I kind of put both of those men into one character. And You Don't Know How It Feels was kind of the struggle, and it was the struggle of who can I tell? What can I do? No one's going to believe me. And
no one's going to believe you, right?
And so that is the struggle between this one girl who has two friends, who is being isolated by this gym teacher, and the two friends ultimately are the ones that try to save Dana, who is the main character.
So they did. Her girlfriends tried to save her.
Yes, they do, and obviously the play's been produced, and the principal at the end of the play doesn't believe them, but they ultimately convince the principal something is happening, and the play ends with a 911 phone call, and Mako, the gym teacher, saying, "But you can't do this to me."
Right, and that your stuff is so. I'm telling you, you are one to watch, and I'm going to be following you. So,
thank you. I appreciate that.
The question becomes: how does one take their creative piece from reading to raising the money to get the off-Broadway production?
That if I had the answer to that, I would tell you. I have been fortunate enough to have friends who are willing to produce, and friends who have companies like the Family Repertory Company. Marvin has been exceedingly kind to me and given me the space to do readings and produce productions. Dark Night with Danny Tyler also has been very kind, and her company Dark Knight put up the money for the Dream Up Festival. So in the words of Blanche from Streetcar, I depend on the kindness of strangers, and I depend on the kindness of friends.
Right. Some friends of Tim and I, Jeffrey Faust and Steve Haught, they raised the money to just put up their play. And awesome. They did, and they sent out letters asking. I got one of those letters. I'm like, are they crazy?
Yeah, I think that's our next steps for Salvation, because that's the play. Because honestly, my lead believes in this work probably more than I do.
And with you, yes.
And he is one of the reasons I have not put Salvation in the shoebox, because he has made me believe in the work. And because he has made me believe in the work when I did not for a while, and that man has hung on since 2019 with Salvation. But he's made me believe in the work, and so now, because I have that behind me, I want to do everything to get this in, because he's a very busy actor, and so I'm like, I want to get this going, because I want to see him.
This will get going, and you can also do the GoFundMe thing. I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can, but I guess what I'm telling you is, please don't stop. You're
I won't.
Amazingly talented, and you're talking about stuff. Even the other play that you did, you're talking about, in both cases, the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. And you can do that. You can do it through your art. You're a great writer. And
appreciate that.
I want to be kept in the loop of everything.
You got it. You got it. Most definitely. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I always do one thing before I leave. I take these hokey pictures on the computer.
I like it.
Jeez. I love it. Cool. So I can't thank you enough. I'm excited about your Sherlock Holmes novella.
Thank you.
And you'll be in touch with everybody that.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And then I know we're friends on social media and things, so that's also helpful.
And thank you for being here tonight and with everything that you shared with everyone.
Thank you.
Out there. I love that Pride is happening on Sunday. And
I can't wait to go. I'm really excited.
You look for me with the Imperial Court of New York. We're kicking it
sweet.
Off. Scream out my name.
I got you. I'll be
a hot mess. I am every year. Thank you so much, Kitt.
Thank you very much.
The name you're going to hear out there. Thank you, everybody. Happy Pride.